Hey everybody, Ingra Sparkman here from Southbridge Street Live, and I just wanted to let you guys know that we have banded together with CASA, Golden Crescent CASA of Victoria, for their annual backpack drive. Now I know it's summertime, so this is a crazy time to be thinking about school, but for organizations like CASA, they need to gather materials and supplies for children all year long. So this is it for the next couple of weeks. On Southbridge Live, you're going to see that some of my guests will be bringing in backpacks themselves. If you also would like to donate a backpack or school supplies, you can come by our studio at 1102 North William Street, or you can call me at 361-649-1825, and I'll be happy to come by, pick up backpacks and supplies to help support our local Golden Crescent CASA. Hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Southbridge Street Live. It is my absolute honor to introduce our next guest. This is Mr. Grimes, and Mr. Grimes and his wife, Mr. and Mrs. Grimes, have put together a garden so that they can harvest and give the product, the harvest, to the soup kitchens here in Victoria, Christ Kitchen, yes, and for those in need. So welcome to our show. And today we're going to be talking not just about gardening for the community, but that really anyone can garden in basically any space that you might have available.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much on behalf of Christ Kitchen and our community for doing something like this. What brought this, this idea to garden, because it's so labor intense to an extent, or the way at least I envision it, to produce food for those in need?
Just to give fresh fruits and vegetables to people that need it to, improve their diet and increase their health.
Right.
And also the high price of groceries. Some people just can't afford to buy the food they need.
Right.
So we provided that, and no cost to them. And it's all been teamwork. It's not just us.
Right. Right.
Lots and lots of people in the community contribute.
Was there something that you saw in particular that you thought, it would be worth it for Mrs. Grimes and I to actually till this garden? Was there anything in particular, or just an overall look at the need in the community?
It was the overall need, but it's like in the book of Revelations, the Church of Philadelphia, the Church of Brotherly Love.
Right, and that is the name of your garden, right? The Garden of Philadelphia.
Yes. That's what we do, is just grow vegetables. We charge nobody for anything. And they're free to come by, or they can go to the kitchen and eat. No one is ever turned away.
Wow. You had said something earlier that I really want to make sure that we get to, which is, we were talking about lawns, because I found this information to be fascinating. Repeat what you said about lawns.
Well, these are facts. The American lawn is the largest agricultural project in the history of this planet.
The American lawn.
The American lawn.
I see.
Nothing even comes close to it. There's more money, time, and effort put into the lawn than farmers put into their crops.
That's incredible.
But yet the lawn produces nothing.
Right.
It just keeps the lawnmowers and the weed eaters going.
Right.
People need to take out the grass and put in a garden.
Right.
Then it could benefit the community. And I'm hoping that this doesn't fall on deaf ears, because people can feed themselves. We live in Tangerine subdivision. Before we bought the little tract of land out in the country, we grew enough to feed us on a 37 by 30 square foot piece of property.
Right.
And plus lots left over for the neighbors. And people could start just by taking out a 3-foot wide section of their lawn and making it the length of the lawn. They could put in a row of okra, squash, cucumbers, just whatever they want.
What are some vegetables are those the vegetables that you would recommend for someone who doesn't have a lot of experience in gardening?
Okra and squash are bulletproof. You can do that. Just put them in, keep the water on them. Mulch is always critical, and just watch it grow.
Right. And it is something that children can do as well. It's such an incredible thing to have a child watch something that they've raised grow into something that they can eat.
That's right.
It's absolutely phenomenal.
100 years ago, 3 out of 4 people made their living on the farm. Today, maybe it's 1 in 100, or probably less. If we could get the kids and the young people back into the soil and back into nature, our health would improve. We could stay out of the grocery stores eating food that has additives we can't even pronounce, and get back to the basics. It works if we can just get people to start doing it.
To start doing that, yes.
You know, I want to say emphatically, this is not leading up to where we need any money. The last thing we need is money. We're just trying to get people back into the soil.
Right. Just getting people back into the soil. That's such an amazing thing to say.
Absolutely.
And you were saying that there's a really influential movie, The Garden of...
Back to Eden Gardening.
Back to Eden Gardening. What did you learn from that movie?
The value of wood chips.
Wood chips?
Yes.
Okay.
It's organic mulch, and we put down about 12 inches on our entire acre. So it was supplied by Sal's Tree Service at no cost to us.
Oh, thank you, Sal's. Right.
Amen. It cuts the water consumption that you need for the garden down by 90%.
Okay, let's stop right there so that we clearly hear this.
No.
Because South Texas is not very forgiving when it comes to the weather. So you're saying that even in South Texas, by putting wood chips as the mulch, you're looking at 90% less watering?
Absolutely.
Even in the summer?
Absolutely.
That's fascinating.
Last year we watered, if I remember correctly, twice in July and 3 times in August.
The whole acre?
The whole acre. You just know none of this daily watering during the heat of the day because the sunshine never touches the ground.
Right.
When you dig down through the chips and you feel the ground, it'll always be there at about 70 degrees. I remember a couple of years ago it snowed on December 8th. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
I went out and dug down through the snow and I stuck a thermometer down in there and that topsoil was still right at 70 degrees.
Oh, wow.
It's just a perfect insulator. And as it decomposes, it makes you topsoil.
Right.
And the roots get out. We've pulled up squash, like we're pulling up squash right now because the spring garden's over, and some of them have roots 12 feet long. That's an enormous apparatus for a plant to take up water.
Right.
Whereas if we just grew it in the ground, it'd just be a small clump of roots.
I see.
It's truly back to nature, back to Eden. And Sal will share his chips with anybody. And I hope there's no city ordinance saying you can't do that.
Right.
But I wanted to mention, if you would, some people here that we owe so much to.
Absolutely.
First of all, the deputy sheriffs. We had a tremendous problem when we first moved out there about people dumping trash on the road. We had a problem with theft, and the sheriff's department was always responsive, especially Sergeant Williams.
Okay, that's absolutely fine.
Good man.
Please continue.
The volunteers at the kitchen. Keep in mind, nobody in this organization ever gets paid. We are never reimbursed for expenses. It takes about $1,000 a month to keep the garden going. We pay all that ourselves. We never sell anything or never ask for anything. Dr. Voss, he's been 10 years into bees. He put beehives out there, and it's paying off very good. Matt Boucher, our county extension agent, he's been there from beginning to end. He was just out yesterday, and that man is a walking encyclopedia of agriculture.
Is that probably a good resource for anyone in our community who is taking, this particular episode to heart and saying, okay, I can start with 3 feet?
Yes.
Is that a good resource for them?
Yes.
Absolutely. The county extension office.
Call the man. That's what he's there for.
Perfect.
His office is out at the airport. He has an excellent staff there, but that's what he's there for, to help us.
Sure. Please continue. I'm sorry to interrupt.
You're fine. You're fine. Alphonse Uresti sold us the land. He didn't have to, but he did sell it to us. I'm thankful to him for that. Forrest Emhoff, neighbor out there, gave us a pickup. He just walked down and handed us the keys and the title.
Did he know what you were doing? Did he know that you were gardening for Christ's Kitchen?
And he wanted to be part of it, and he gave.
That's amazing.
Another lady out there, Sarah Dalquist, it's no embellishment to say we've eaten 500 meals off her table in 3 years.
Wow.
And
That's
that's a
amazing.
godsend. When the sun's going down, you don't have to stop and cook. She'll just text us and say, food's ready. And this just makes things go so much better.
I see, because what you're saying is that you decided, you were moved spiritually to build this garden, to do this for the community, for Christ Kitchen. But look at all of the people, the neighbors that lend a helping hand so that you can continue to work and labor in it, so that you can continue to produce.
Oh, absolutely. We could never do this alone.
Right.
You know, we're just one cog in the transmission.
Wow.
Everybody keeps so much going. People donate so much time and effort to this kitchen. It's not like they just walk in and serve a meal. They start at daylight preparing this food, and they work late.
Right. Yes, we volunteered there before. It is an ongoing operation. It is an incredible organization.
They feed about 200 a day.
And Christ Kitchen is almost always run exclusively by volunteers, which reminds me of something. Would you be receptive to having community members come out and help you garden?
Certainly. The gate's always open.
Okay.
Always. Can I give my phone number here?
Sure, absolutely. I'm happy for you to give your phone number.
361 area code, and the number is 489-0785.
489-0785. Wonderful. Well, that's an amazing phone number to have if you're looking for volunteer opportunities throughout the year. This is something new. I've just heard of this. How long have you been doing the garden?
Since August of 16.
Since August of 16. Oh, that's
but
incredible.
it's taken until this year to really get started.
Right. On an acre.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we had a late frost this year on Bottom Road as April 2nd, and it wiped out 80%. We had to start all over.
Oh.
Well, those things happen, but we still kept going. And just this week, we went over 3,000 pounds for the kitchen.
Oh, that's incredible.
But we're still shooting for that 10,000 pound mark.
Right.
And it will come. But it just takes time.
Right.
And as any farmer knows, anything can happen.
Yes.
And
Well, keep going, please.
Kathy down at Bowling Bunny Farms, south of Wharton. She's about 90 miles from here. The young lady started out when she was 5 years old with one rabbit. She's about my age now. Last year, she sold 60,000 rabbits.
Wow.
That's what things can grow into. But the point is, she gives us about 30,000 pounds of rabbit manure a year free of charge.
Oh my goodness.
So even 90 miles away, people are helping.
Oh, that's so incredible.
And she's good people.
Good. And so I didn't realize that rabbit manure is good for the garden.
Yes, it's the highest.
Because generally speaking, right, a rabbit in the garden, it's not really
not a good thing, but what we call the rabbit berries are. And it's high in nitrogen,
rabbit berries, yes.
nitrogen and phosphorus, and it grows really good. And it's been an enormous contribution by her.
Oh, that's incredible.
And that's about it for what I have on this paper.
Okay, good.
But I just want to reiterate again, we don't need money.
Right.
We don't need checks. We need prayers, and we need labor.
We need labor, okay.
But please understand, it's hot.
Right.
Come with a good hat and a long sleeve shirt and a good attitude, because it's just really hot.
So I'm going to ask you just a couple of fun questions.
Okay.
Like, what is your favorite vegetable to eat?
Zucchini squash.
Zucchini squash, really? Why is it your favorite?
They just taste good to me. I can't. Maybe it's the way she cooks it. I don't know.
What is your favorite way to have it prepared?
Connie takes it and she batters it in cornmeal and olive oil. She always asks me, how do I want it cooked? And I'll just say lots of it. But, you work up an appetite out there. But, we could grow a lot of different things like watermelon or cantaloupe, but they don't really add that many calories.
Right.
And we just try to grow the things that have caloric intake.
Right, and that's something that I thought was really fascinating speaking with you before, that you're even very conscientious about what you're planting in the ground so that it has a higher caloric value for the people that you're feeding?
Yes. Well, actually, Miss Hable controls that.
Okay,
She says plant, we plant.
I see.
You know, she's the go-to lady, because when it gets to her back door, it has to be right.
Right.
And it has to be something she can take in and prepare. Like, you know, cushaws, I thought they'd really like cushaws, but cushaws have a really thick skin. It takes a long time to prepare.
Right.
And she said, if you will, phase those out, bring in more yellowneck and zucchini.
Right.
So that's what we're doing.
I see. So that there's also the prep time and things like that for
Prep
cooking.
time, that's a good way to put it, yes. And, you know, we should throw the food bank in here too, because
Absolutely.
they donate so much food.
I know, it's
And,
incredible. And all the surrounding counties. That's
Yes.
the other thing that I learned this last year, that it's not Victoria's food bank, it's Golden Crescent. So it's all of the counties here
Yes.
in our community.
The last time I checked, they were feeding about 30,000 people a month.
That's amazing.
The lady that we deal mainly up there is Miss Meredith Bird,
Yes,
and she's always full of energy out and going and doing.
right.
And very blessed to have her here in this community.
So were you always a gardener?
No, I was raised on a commercial farm. I flew,
Oh, I see.
I flew crop dusters for years. It's just not the way to do it.
Really?
No, it's just too destructive. I know farmers don't want to hear this, and God bless farmers, but we've got to quit cutting down trees. We've got to return this soil to its original plan that Christ intended it to be, and get back to feeding ourselves. And farming is so debt structured.
Right.
You know, you plant corn, soybeans, you got one time a year in the fall to get your money out of that crop, so you can go borrow more money to start again. And when this way, there's just very little expense. We do have a land payment and we have a tractor payment, and that's the bulk of the $1,000. And we don't even use the tractor in the garden, it's just
Right.
used to pull the wagon.
Right. That's kind of interesting too, that you don't have a tractor in your garden.
No, never. We never put a plow in the ground. It's just enough hole to put the seed in.
Wow.
And
Tell me about trees.
according to what Texas A&M teaches, once you get 25 miles away from the ocean,
Okay.
90% of all rainfall comes from tree transpiration.
Transpiration,
Yes,
tree transpiration. Okay.
I just call it tree sweat, because it's
Tree
these
sweat.
little particles of water that go up into the
Right.
air, and they form clouds and it rains. But we cut down all these trees to put in pivots and to clear the land for feedlots, and then we wonder why we have a drought.
Right.
And keep in mind, I'm guilty of all this.
Right. I see.
did it too for years and years. But for the sake of our children and future generations, we have got to quit this. It has got to stop.
Right.
But we shall see.
But you say that you really feel that if you, that any of us in the community could take 3 feet of soil, of land,
Exactly.
no matter where we are, and start with that,
Exactly.
what would you say is the prep for it? Let's say I've never gardened in my entire life, and I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna listen to you, take what you're saying to heart. I'm gonna go out onto my property, and I'm gonna measure 3 feet. What is
Wide,
the
3
first
feet
thing?
wide.
3 feet wide. Thank you. Where would I start? So I would start by just tilling it up by the hand.
Just take you a shovel or whatever
Shovel,
tool you
okay.
have and get the grass out of there.
Okay.
Put
Why
it-
feed the grass?
Put it in the
Right.
garbage bin where it belongs, and then come back and put your cardboard down.
Okay.
And
Put cardboard, a layer of cardboard.
that'll keep the grass from coming back up.
Okay.
Because it's very
Or
difficult to
weeds.
kill, or
Yeah.
weeds.
Okay.
And then put your chips down. Then put your seed in, water it, and just watch for insects and disease, but you're pretty much going to be okay.
And then just start there.
Start right there. Get on the web if you want to plant squash. Find out about how long it'll take before you get a squash. And then just start picking it when it's the size that you prefer.
Now I understand that we're, in July. So would you give, what advice would you give for someone who wants to plant something right now?
Okra is
Okra?
bulletproof.
Okra.
Okra will grow in tremendous heat. Squash will too.
Right.
It may wilt a little early, but you're going to be okay. But squash and okra, cucumbers, They're the mainstay, and you can get right in there on it.
And it's so incredible too, once you start gardening and you realize that the seeds, a whole package of seeds can be $1, and you can just sometimes go for miles
Exactly.
with some of the seeds that are there.
Yes, you can buy 100 seed for almost nothing, and it's the average seed out there, average across the board, is going to give you at least 700 seeds back.
Right.
It's self-perpetuating as long as you keep the debt out of the picture. And then you can just eat, you can save your seed, buy heirloom seeds.
Now there is I thought that was I was just fixing to interrupt you and I didn't want to. Heirloom seeds, you guys, these are seeds that have not had any modifications to them. These are basically seeds that come from as far back as we could gather them as they were naturally. So there have been no modifications to them whatsoever. Those are called heirloom seeds, and there are lots of places on the internet that are certified for heirloom. But do you know where to get heirloom seeds here? Or do you mean for us to cut our own vegetables and procure the seeds that way?
If they're heirloom seeds, you can do that. If they're
Right.
hybrids, you can't.
Okay.
But you can go in any store in town for a person that has a small garden in their yard, and you can buy a packet of heirloom seeds. They're
Oh,
everywhere.
okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, just
Okay.
any
So
place
do
in
you
town.
look for it on the label?
Yes.
Will it say heirloom?
It will say heirloom, or it will say hybrid. And no, personally, I stay away from the hybrid and go all heirloom.
Right.
But going hybrid is better than no garden at all.
Right.
So,
That's
but
a
if
very
you-
good point.
And it's going to taste just as good as the heirloom. You just can't reuse your seed.
Oh, and a hybrid?
Right.
Right.
But with an heirloom, you can let one or two squash grow until they mature out, and then get your seed out of them, and you've become self-sufficient at that point.
You know, also, it's so interesting to see this when I think about in the grocery store, and I'm looking for that beautiful color, but really all the wax that I'm looking at, and I'm not even understanding that it's been modified
Exactly.
in order to be more aesthetically pleasing. But an heirloom tomato that's grown from an heirloom seed is the best tomato I've ever eaten in my life. And it's true, my grandparents are like, that's what we were raised on. So it's even harder as you get older to see, well, the taste of things are changing
Yes.
because
To
we've
no taste
changed
at
the
all.
seeds. Right, we've changed the molecular structure of the seed.
Well, also keep in mind, even if it is heirloom and organically grown, if it's in the grocery store, it traveled an average of 1,500 miles to get on that shelf.
Right,
Therefore, it was picked green,
right,
and it ripened on that truck and in that grocery store.
right, right. I'm talking about heirloom that we grew ourselves.
Oh, okay.
Right. I'm talking about heirloom that we grew ourselves. But you're also too, this is the other thing that we should probably touch on, is the transportation and the cost to transport it, and the energy that's wasted to get things that are not local.
Yes.
They're interesting to try, but you have to also be, I think, conscientious of what it took to get something like, I can't even think of whatever, but
Logistics.
right, exactly.
People don't realize the logistics it takes just to get food on the shelf, when really and truly we should be just walking out the door and picking it.
Right.
Wouldn't that be better than grass and a lawnmower and a weed eater and an edger and a trimmer and arguing about who's going to do the lawn today? Let's grow our food.
Right. I think that's perfect. I think that's a great ending. Let's grow our food 3 feet at a time.
3 feet at a time.
And you're willing to answer calls and questions that people might have?
Anytime.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Anytime.
Thank you so much for what you're doing for Christ's Kitchen and for what you're doing for people in our community. I'm absolutely honored to have you here.
Well, thank you.
And
We
would-
should have put you on the list for thanks.
I'm happy to do it. It's my pleasure to do that.
Okay.
And for us, for our community, to think about what Mr. Grimes is saying. What kind of area do we have? What possibilities or potential do we have to grow some fresh produce for ourselves and for our community? Thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you, and Christ bless.
Thank you. And thank you all so much for watching Southbridge Street Live.